If you want someone to like you, the most obvious move is to do something nice for them. Help them with a problem. Buy them a coffee. Offer something before asking for anything in return. This logic feels so natural that questioning it seems almost absurd. But Benjamin Franklin, who was many things before he was a philosopher of human nature, stumbled onto a social dynamic in the 18th century that turns this assumption completely upside down. And 2 centuries later, a pair of psychologists ran an experiment that proved he was right. The story appears in Franklin's Autobiography. He was serving in the Pennsylvania General Assembly when a rival legislator gave a speech strongly opposing him, publicly to the room, with apparent personal hostility. Franklin knew that trying to win this man over through gestures and gifts would likely be seen as flattery or manipulation. So instead, he did something that sounds counterintuitive, almost to the point of being rude. He sent the man a note asking to borrow a rare book from his personal library. The legislator sent the book. Franklin kept it for a week and returned it with a note of thanks. When they next met in the assembly, the man approached Franklin and spoke with him warmly, in a way he never had before. According to Franklin, they became friends from that point on, and remained so until the man's death. Franklin summarized what he'd learned in a line that has since been quoted widely, even by people who have never read the Autobiography. He that has once done you a kindness will be more ready to do you another than he that you yourself have obliged. Franklin was describing a real psychological mechanism, though he didn't have the vocabulary for it that later researchers would develop. The modern explanation runs through the theory of cognitive dissonance, first formalized by Leon Festinger at Stanford in 1957. Cognitive dissonance is the discomfort people experience when their beliefs and their behavior point in different directions at the same time. The mind doesn't tolerate that tension well. It works quickly and largely below conscious awareness to resolve it, and it almost always does so by adjusting the belief to fit the behavior, rather than changing the behavior to fit the belief. Changing behavior is hard. Updating a belief, quietly and automatically, is easy. When a person does you a favor, a small but real tension arises in their mind. Their behavior, helping you, extending goodwill, spending time or effort on your behalf, doesn't quite fit with the assumption that they feel neutral or mildly hostile toward you. To resolve that tension without confronting the inconsistency directly, the mind makes a quiet internal adjustment. This person must actually be someone worth helping. I help them, after all, and I'm a reasonable person who generally helps people worth helping. So there must be a reason I extended myself here, even if I can't quite name it. And just like that, the attitude shifts, not because of anything you demonstrated and not because of anything you offered or gave, but because of what they did for you. The formal confirmation of this came in 1969 when psychologists John Jecker and David Landy at the University of California, Santa Barbara ran a controlled experiment. They had participants complete a task and receive a cash prize. After the task, one group was approached by the experimenter personally, who explained that the study had run over budget and asked if participants would consider returning their winnings as a favor. Another group was asked the same by a university administrator rather than the researcher personally. A third group was not asked at all. Afterward, participants were asked to rate how much they liked the researcher. The group who returned their money as a personal favor to the researcher rated him as significantly more likable than either of the other two groups. The act of doing something for someone, returning the money, extending the goodwill, had not made them feel resentful or taken advantage of. It had made them like the person more. The adjustment in attitude flowed directly from the act. What makes this finding particularly uncomfortable is that it implies your liking for someone is not simply a response to how they treat you. It's also a response to how you treat them. The effort you invest in another person becomes, through the quiet work of cognitive consistency, evidence that they are worth the investment. You are, in a sense, reasoning backward from your own behavior to conclusions about other people, and those conclusions stick in ways that purely received generosity does not. This explains a pattern that shows up in relationships of every kind. People who have made significant sacrifices for a person or a cause tend to become more attached to that person or cause over time, not less. Soldiers who endure hardship together form bonds that can last decades. Parents who invest extraordinary effort into a child's well-being often report that the effort itself deepens the attachment, independent of the child's behavior or response. People who push through the difficult early stages of learning something difficult become more committed to it. Not because the difficulty is pleasant, but because having chosen to invest in it is now part of the internal argument they carry about why it matters. The same dynamic appears in professional settings that rarely get analyzed through this lens. Teams that ask for one another's advice, consult each other's expertise, and make small requests of each other regularly tend to build stronger cohesion than teams whose interactions are limited to giving one another information. Asking someone for their opinion isn't just efficient. It engages the mechanism. They've now helped you, which means their mind quietly updates its position on whether you're worth helping. The workplace interaction that feels like a request for information is simultaneously a relationship-building act, even if nobody in the room recognizes it as one. It also explains why simply receiving from others doesn't automatically generate the same depth of feeling. Being the recipient of generosity can produce gratitude, warmth, even affection, but it doesn't produce the particular kind of attachment that comes from having given something, because it doesn't engage the same cognitive mechanism. The attitude follows the action, and only the one who acted gets that internal recalibration. Franklin's original insight was practical and specific. If you want to warm up a relationship with someone who is indifferent or mildly opposed to you, the counterintuitive move is to ask them for something small and concrete, something they can actually give. Not a demand, not a transaction, a request that allows them to extend goodwill toward you, which then quietly updates how they think about you without either of you acknowledging what just happened. The request has to be genuine, specific, and manageable. Asking someone to lend you a book, give you a professional opinion, or introduce you to someone in their network works because it provides a clear and sincere opportunity to help. Manufactured or hollow requests don't engage the mechanism in the same way, and people typically sense when a request isn't sincere. What changes when you understand this isn't just strategy? It's the realization that the feelings you have about people are partly a record of what you've done for them, and that the feelings others have about you can be shaped not only by what you offer, but by what you ask them to give. Subscribe, because every single week we show you one more place where your behavior is shaping your mind without ever telling you first.